Weight loss for middle-aged men is not a physical battle. It's a spiritual war. And the reason why this talk is going to be my longest so far is because it'll be the last one you ever need to hear. There are people in the comment section that say I talk too slow. My videos are too long. The reason why you're still fat is because you've tried the diet. You've tried the new training program. The one thing you haven't tried is patience. You don't have the endurance to stick it out. So I invite you today to open your mind, to practice some patience. And once you see and hear what I'm about to share with you, it can't be unseen. It can't be unheard. And it'll put you in a place of voluntary isolation. But with that comes freedom. Look at this image. And if you're listening, I'll explain it to you. A sinister clown with a cigarette in his mouth. A puppet master. He's wearing a lab coat. And in his strings, caught up, is a middle-aged man. He's skinny fat, fed up, anxious, and he's surrounded by rotten junk food. This image is not an accident. And I created it because I wasn't allowed to use this image. For legal reasons. The cowboy and the clown, they work for the same devil. And before you think, oh, well, this is old. This is decades old. That geezer's from the 50s, and this creepy looking lad is from the 80s. They don't use these characters anymore because it's too obvious. Their tactics are far more sophisticated. And that's what I'm about to share with you today. What I didn't realize until someone in the comment section brought it up is that the people that own the cigarette companies bought the food companies. When people stopped smoking back in the 80s and they realized how bad it was for you, they employed and applied those same tactics and people into the food industry, into things you're eating today. So if you're overweight, feeling fed up, and you're feeling like, oh, hold on a sec, this is kind of deep water, you're drowning. And I'm offering you a hand. You don't know which way's up, down, left, right. You don't know where the shore is. And it's rough waters. Listen, when you're lost at sea and you don't know where you are, you need to get your head above water. So that's what the scorecard is about. So do the scorecard, link in description and the pinned comment. Give you instant clarity. Davey here, good mate of mine, lost over an inch from around his waist in just a few months. By the way, father of 4 under the age of 6, which is crazy. So no excuses, it can be done. Let's move on. Spirituality versus religion. This is an important distinction. Now, I grew up Roman Catholic. My mother is Irish from a little farm. And she would douse us in holy water when we leave in the house. So I'm very familiar with what religion is. And it has its pros, it has its cons. But this is distinct. Spirituality is a direct personal fight for your own soul. You don't need any religious iconography for this. What you need is to examine your own soul inside, and you need to wake up. But the us versus them narrative is real. And real peace comes when you're able to switch off the external noise. Because I don't watch the news. I don't scroll social media looking at half-naked birds. Don't know what the politicians are up to. All I focus on is how can I get better every day. And every meal choice is a middle finger up to the evil clowns and scientists that are trying to target you and keep you hooked. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, look, man, just tell me what to eat. Just tell me what exercises do I need to do just to lose that, bit of fat around the middle. Or what supplements do I need to take? You're buggered already. Because my talks are not for reactive men. They're not for people that want a quick fix. They're for proactive people. I am encouraging critical thinking, not conspiracy theories. And for you to find lasting change. Most of the lads that work with me stay about a year. I never hear from them again. I don't have repeat customers like Weight Watchers. But this is a journey that most fellas won't take. And it's the journey to become fit, strong, clear-headed, and to have the energy and presence that you need with your family. But look at the numbers. As the trends show, very quickly in your lifetime, if not already, depending on where you live, when you're fit, strong, healthy, as a dad, you will be the minority. So get ready to see what's being pushed at you and get ready to take the other path. Because once you see what I'm going to show you, that is the curse of awareness. Nietzsche, you probably heard this chap. He said, "He who sees too much ends up not fitting in anywhere." Ignorance is bliss, they like to say. It's not, it's a trap. There is voluntary and involuntary isolation. So I'm going to talk about involuntary isolation, which we experience as men, as dads, especially as we get older. And I'm going to talk about the freedom of voluntary isolation. Now, once you see and are aware, you start to realize how the whole system works and the power struggles that happen while we're completely unaware. And the upside is that you become free and you see things for what they really are, but you might find yourself isolated. And it's not that you think you're better than other people when you start looking after yourself. It's that you've seen too much. You've come too far. And that is an awakened life. But make no mistake about it, we are in a battle. You're in a war. And losing weight is not a diet problem. It's a spiritual battle. It's a fight between the evils that are being waged upon you and your mind and your soul. You think it's a willpower problem, but it's not. This is all done by design. So you're not weak. You're just outgunned by billion-dollar industries. And every temptation that you see in every mealtime is engineered. Every craving. It's not an accident. But the first step of any battle is realizing you're in one. But food is the hardest addiction to beat. Because you can give up alcohol. You can give up drugs, quit the cigarettes, abstain from that, but you can't abstain from food. It's omnipresent. So what you're forced to face is the abyss. And Nietzsche also said, when you stay long enough at the abyss stares back at you. And the abyss for you is, why am I reaching for this food, for these food products? But make no mistake about it, you do not have the original sin. There's nothing wrong with you. The original sin is the tobacco companies buying the food companies. So Philip Morris, large cigarette company that owned Marlboro, they bought Kraft and General Foods. And then by 1989, Kraft, General Foods together became the largest food company in the world. Food company run by the cigarette men. See where this is going? The people behind Marlboro now make your kids' Lunchables. They make their Capri Suns. They make your missus's cream cheese. And they make your high fructose, yes, corn syrup barbecue sauce. I didn't know this either. Look at this. Kraft barbecue sauce. The number one ingredient, I thought it'd be tomato puree. No. Before that, it's high fructose corn syrup in your barbecue sauce. So they lost the war on smoking and they moved the battlefield to your dinner plate. Craving engineered in a lab. Yes, by scientists, no less by snack engineers. That's their actual title. They got you hooked 4 ways. The first way is they turn up the crunch. They engineer sounds, these really loud potato chips, so that it gives you that satisfying feeling when you hear them, that crunch. They bottle nostalgia. So they use synthetic aromas that remind you of childhood. They rebuild salt. Oh, yes. They re-engineer the structure of salt particles so that when they hit your mouth, it's still salt, but it has more of an impact. And you want more of that. And they amplify sweetness way past sugar. So artificial sweeteners turbocharge your sweet tooth far more than sugar does. It's way more intense. Nothing in nature tastes like that. And it's funny, I have this discussion recently with another parent. I'm in the playground, the juice comes out, and very kindly this other parent asked me, do my kids want a juice? The little tiny ones, the tiny bottles. And she said, they're sugar-free. Now, I'm not very good with small talk. I'm sometimes a little bit impolite because I care passionately about this topic and the health of my kids. I said, they're sugar-free. Right, so how are they still sweet? There was a perplexed look. And what is not understood is that the sweeteners are worse than the sugar. And this is the snack world deception I talked about in the last video about the media. Sugar-free, low fat, high fiber, high protein. It's all a scam to feed you ultra-processed foods. Basically, you don't have a willpower problem. These decisions have been designed in labs to make you eat past the point of feeling full. And diets don't work. They just cover the root cause. So if you're feeling a righteous anger now, completely understandable. Because these billion-dollar industries are selling you a promise that cannot be sustained. Because you can't starve forever. And then you find yourself back on that cycle again. And the gym keeps the demons at bay. I'm chatting to a chap yesterday, a new client who enjoys working out. But his mentality was, so I have a couple of beers on a weekend, and then Monday I do a HIIT class at lunchtime, and I sweat it all out of me. I punish myself. Oh, the personal trainer is great. He tells me off. And he's looking at his watch saying, oh yeah, that day I burnt so many calories. You can't out-train a bad diet. So you find yourself in a vicious cycle, punishing yourself. It's perverse. Exercise should be a reward for having a healthy body, not a punishment for a weekend. But these industries, historically, they will label you as a conspiracy theorist. Now, you have to understand that whenever something seems a bit sus, follow the money. I mean, the conspiracy theorist label will come out before the scandal label comes out, before everything actually gets uncovered. And then we quickly move on to the next thing. But that label works as a conversation ender. It rubbishes the critical thinking that you have. So let's go through just 3 examples. Just so you know, you can copy these and regurgitate them at the dinner table if you're as bad at small talk as I am. These are documented food industry cover-ups, right? These are on record. These are not theory. So the first one of 3. Sugar Research Foundation paid Harvard scientists around $50,000 in today's money to publish a review blaming fat, not sugar, for heart disease, without disclosing the funding. And this shaped dietary guidelines for decades. Now, I know with my own father, he's on cholesterol lowering medication. My mum buys him cholesterol friendly food, which may lower cholesterol as part of a healthy diet. And then you see what's in it, and the vegetable oils and other pollutants. And you can talk to your blue in the face about, they call them boomers, I guess. I don't know, my parents are in their 70s, so I know that counts as boomers. And they still believe that fat is bad for you. But yet they're giving the grandkids the sweeties, the candy, as the Americans say. Right, that's the sugar industry. Here's a second one. Coca-Cola funded a research group to shift blame of obesity from sugary drinks to lack of exercise. And this was found out by the New York Times. They did an expose on it. So in other words, they were saying, you're fat because you're lazy, because you don't exercise, not because of sugar. Sick. And the third one, the food industry, fought the labeling of trans fats, for example, in Pringles, and regulation for years after internal and academic evidence showed cardiovascular harm. But the FDA, the body in America, didn't ban hydrogenated oils until 2015, only 11 years ago. So they knew trans fats were bad for us, causing heart disease, but didn't bother banning them until they absolutely had to. They don't have your interests at heart, forgive the pun. Ignorance is bliss. The bliss point, temptation, engineered in a lab. So food scientists pioneered this bliss point, maximum craving, salt, sugar, and fat. Right? And this is a mathematical equation. So the bliss point is engineered in every product that comes off a shelf. So that's bread, that's yogurt, that's pasta sauce. Like these products, I was having a discussion recently with a relative who was saying that she eats healthy because she has pasta. And she buys this pasta sauce. Like, did you ever look what's in the pasta sauce? Like, it's very easy to make your own pasta sauce. You get a can of tomatoes, put them in a blender, couple of herbs, oregano, blend it, boom. That's pasta sauce. But I know we're trying our best to be healthy, so we buy pasta sauce full of sugar. These aren't foods, these are gateway drugs. Now, this is a brilliant podcast, YouTube video I seen by the Nudge podcast, a shout out to them. And this is how McDonald's make men binge, right, by Rory Sutherland, marketing genius. They put in screens in McDonald's, so you don't have to go to a person to order. And you think, oh, that's so good of them. That makes it so convenient to order. What they found was that men started ordering unusually. Because there was no social shame of having to order from a person, they could put into the machine, give me 2, 3 burgers with my meal. So men overconsume. And they roll this out everywhere, right? Because they understand the faster they get it out, the faster it can change your behavior. And they also went multi-channel. So they've got screens, they've got pre-order apps, they've got the tablets, they've got the counter. The more ways they're giving you to buy something, the more likely you are to buy. So an extra interface for more binging. But the bigger principle underneath this is that behavior isn't driven by attitude or willpower. It's all driven by the environment. And once you start ingesting this poison, it lives in you. We are a bag of bacteria, and your gut has trillions of microbes. When you eat this food, that bacteria craves sugar, right, through the gut-brain axis. And the study was done on mice where they disrupted their microbiome, and it found they consumed 50% more sugar. So the cravings aren't always you talking. It's the little demons inside you wanting to be fed that sugar. So if you feed yourself long enough this crap, you're going to build these colonies that live inside your gut, and they're demanding that bliss point. They're screaming through your nervous system. But every time you resist, you starve them. And every clean meal is like a mini exorcism. But there are false prophets, big pharma, and the cures that actually cost you more than your pocket. This system is not set up to sell you health. A pill for blood pressure, an injection for appetite, a statin for cholesterol. They've all got side effects, consequences. Nobody profits from you being lean, being strong, having free will. Everybody profits from you being sick, being dependent, and being managed. Like, do you really think the government gives a shit about your health? Let me tell you this. 2020, our first child was born. And we know what happened in March of 2020. Everyone lost their mind, including me. And in 2022, when my second child was born, I wasn't allowed into the birth. You can probably guess why. But lo and behold, 3 days later, I was able to bring that baby, our second child, in for her heel prick test. No problem at all. That tells you everything about whose interests come first. CT does not stand for conspiracy theorist, it stands for critical thinker. And it's very hard to be rational when you're feeling lonesome. And this is why I'm addressing you, the middle-aged man. Because there is the collapse of brotherhood. You feel it inside. Sometimes you ignore it. But men over 40 have a spiritual struggle. They have a loss of belonging, a loss of that tribe, a loss of role models. You've got no tribes, you've got no elders, there's no initiation phase. And you might remember when you were younger, I know I do, you used to go and watch Arsenal, watch the football. And we'll be chanting and cheering. Right? 40,000 plus people. This is back in Highbury. And that's not entertainment, that is a spiritual experience. And before that, you're in church. And when you're even younger, you're in school singing hymns together. But that's a collective worship to something other than yourself. But lonely men don't fight back. Lonely men order a takeaway. And as a man, you become more vulnerable with time. Because there's 4 stages of life when it comes to friendship. When you're a boy, you're never alone. You've at least got your mother there. And you've got friends, school. And then when you go to university, you got mates. You got a pub, you got teams, sending texts. Then you start working and you got colleagues. Normally not as cool because you're kind of forced to be with them. Your circle narrows. And you're always saying, oh yeah, we must catch up soon. And then as you move up the ladder in your career, you don't have any peers. You're the person people look to. And when you get married, have kids, your circle collapses. Your old friendships are gone. Your mates have moved away, different cities. Maybe they met a bird or they've gone to university and they stayed in that city. And really, you've got no mates. That's the friendship funnel. You've gone from being born, you've got your mother, and now, in time, you're the parent. And you're supposed to be the nurturer, the one that people come to. And you're missing that nurturing. Where's our refuge? Where's our comfort? It's in the fridge. The statistics are grim. Right, this comes from the Survey Center of American Life 2021. Men with 6+ close friends went from 55% in 1990 to 27% in 21. So that's half. And men who said they got no close friends went from 3% up to 15%. That's a 5-fold increase. And 1 in 5 men say that they have 0 friends. Now, we've been detached not only from each other, but from ourselves and from nature. We evolved under the sun, moving all day, eating what the earth gives us, growing our own food. But now we live under artificial light. We're eating substances that our great-grandfathers wouldn't even recognize as food. And we're completely detached. The body is the last piece of nature you still own. It will always be the place you live. But reclaiming it means looking inward. And you can't heal an environment that is sick unless you consciously walk out of it. So you are a walking clock. Instead of living your life where you wake up, you look at the phone straight away, you look at the phone while you're eating, while you're drinking your tea, your coffee in the morning, you get in the car, you listen to the news, bad news no less, sit in the car, get to the office on the fluorescent lights, sit in the office all day, get back in the car, catch up on the news. Oh, immigrants are bad. Like, politicians are doing this person's dating this person. And then you get home, sit on the couch, more nonsense, eating nonsense, watching nonsense, go to bed. That's your day. That becomes your week, your month, your year, your life. You have an internal clock, a circadian rhythm, that once you understand what it is and you abide by it, you will start to sync with your nature. So eat within 1 to 2 hours of waking up. Stop this intermittent fasting bollocks. Not eating is a stress. Now, if you're very experienced and you've been doing this for years and you're very fit, strong, healthy, you can practice some fasting. But right now, your nervous system is already in shock from trying to be healthy. And when you don't eat, you create stress in your body, and that morning stress ends up in nighttime binging. So eat within 1 to 2 hours of waking up and stop eating 3 to 5 hours before going to bed. The reason why you wake up in the middle of the night is because your body's still trying to digest its food. But this is a vicious cycle. And the one thing that's keeping you in it emotionally is shame. Because food is a weapon, the way it's being used by these big corporations. And when you're not winning at work, or at business, or in your relationship, or with parenting, you reward yourself with that food at nighttime. So ask yourself, what am I trying to escape? Do I have an actual physical need? Am I actually hungry? Or am I eating for emotional comfort? Now stay with me on this. If you're offended by this, it's probably because it's true. There is a concept called the mother complex, and Jung and Freud talked about this. Psychologically, food is our first experience of love. A mother feeding her child, you. So comfort eating is a return to her arms. That's why these mascots from these large companies these junk food companies are all warm, smiling, paternal figures. You've got Tony the Tiger. He tells you, you're great. You've got Ronald McDonald who wants to play with you all the time. They're built to bond with you and the child in you. And every time you eat that food as a grown man, you're not doing it because you're feeling hungry. You're feeling a wound. And you're trying to be mothered again. But here's the turn. You're the parent now. Your child looks to you for that comfort. And you can't give it if you're still receiving it. Now, in most spiritual traditions, the mother is the primal source of unconditional love, right? She's creation, nurturing. And she's the embodiment of the feminine. Yeah, she has compassion, and she's connection to life its very self, if I said that right. But Freud and Jung identify that there is an oral need, i.e., when we eat, we get instant pleasure for our taste buds. Now, this is not proven scientifically, but it's a theory, and I'm asking you to think and reflect. What's your relationship like with your mother, if she's still alive? Please God, she is. And when you eat, what connection does that give you emotionally to her, if any? Now, the most dire situation a man can find himself in is death row, the last meal. And there was a study done in Cornell University with 193 death row inmates, right, for their last meal. And they overwhelmingly chose comfort food: fried chickens, burgers, fries, name brands like Coca-Cola, McDonald's. So when they were facing death, there were no requests about nutrition. They requested their childhood. And the researchers concluded that extreme stress meant they wanted to surround themselves with the familiar of a time when they were safe and loved. That's how deep this runs. So if they can do it, or if they find themselves doing this at death row, this can be you on a Tuesday night. The Marlboro Man never died. He just changed his products. So you're sold, and this happens still today, the idea of masculinity. The Marlboro Man, the Clint Eastwood type. He's strong and silent. Now, originally, Marlboro was a woman's cigarette in the 1950s. But they invented this cowboy to sell the poison to men. And funnily enough, the Marlboro Man in that picture I showed you earlier, he never smoked. In fact, I watched an interview with him, and it was by chance, just a handsome fella. There were some people filming on a ranch. They're like, hey, this guy's handsome. Would you like to do some commercials for us if we give you these cigarettes to smoke? So he smoked them for the commercials. And then his kid said to him, Daddy, why are you smoking these cigarettes? They're bad for you. So he didn't smoke. He only died recently at the age of 90 something. But he never smoked. And that's telling you that smoking is masculine. And that's done now with alcohol. I mean, look, the most macho events you can do, the Heineken Cup for rugby, the Carlsberg or Carling Premier League. I don't get confused. But it's all tied into alcohol. You think these athletes drink? Come on. And even like barbecues, like that hyper palatable high fructose corn syrup sauce. That's the macho thing to do. Put the sauce on, full of sugar. Have your cheat day feast. How much can you eat? That's a manly thing. But it's the opposite. You got a big old gut. You got low testosterone. Your mind is cloudy. Real masculinity is not in a product. It's a behavior. But there's a tiger on men's backs. On your back, make no mistake about it. Men are far more likely to be overweight than women across all countries and cultures. And it's because we're the perfect target. We feel lonely, we feel purposeless, we're comfort seeking, and we're told that your instincts are toxic. So we want comfort, but we want to be strong at the same time. But if we're eating those goodies in the middle of the night, when no one's watching, it's almost like it didn't happen. But belly fat is spiritual fog. And visceral fat is actually stored energy, if you didn't know that. This is the stuff that lies between your internal organs. It's when you touch it, you press in your belly, it feels hard underneath. I mean, they found studies that show obesity and abdominal fat are associated with reduced cerebral blood flow. In other words, they affect your memory and cognition. And when you reduce your visceral fat, you slow brain shrinkage as you age, and you get larger brain volume and better memory, right? Even without major weight loss. But a foggy brain is a reactive brain. It's not proactive. You're more triggered by social media, by the news cycles, by workplace stress. You're not able to focus. You're not able to decide, not able to lead people. I mean, fat literally dims your mind. That's why the battle gets harder the longer you wait, and the brain fog gets worse. But weight loss is a bit of a distraction. And people get fixated with the scale because weight loss is just one metric, right? If you only focus on that metric, you'll be full of self-doubt because it makes you feel like, okay, I'm looking at the weight, it's not changing much. That breeds shame and doubt. And then that takes you out early, morally. So you feel disencouraged, despondent, and you're back comfort eating. And we call this self-sabotage the upper limit problem. So self-sabotage is not because you got the wrong tactics, it's because you have the wrong identity. It's a deservingness feeling. And there's a ceiling to it where, for example, I had a client, lost 26 pounds, got a promotion, got a raise, and then because he found himself in a position where he didn't recognize himself anymore and he wasn't sure what his identity was, he sabotaged it all. Gained the weight back and then some. But this isn't just because the food is tasty. It's because a whole industry has been built for us to worship. I mean, when there was a new donut chain here that opened up, Dunkin' Donuts in Dublin, this is about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. I was driving past. What was traffic for? And I seen the queue of people lined up, people beeping their horn. And I thought, fucking hell, we're doomed. Look at all these people, a lot of young people, queuing up for a free donut, waiting hours. Like, where's the lines around the block for the church? Or something that involves communion, but not through eating this poison. And it gets, this is sick, right? Listen to this. The drive-through. My nose is itchy. I have been to one drive-through. It was during 2020. Sorry, some green tea. And my wife thought it's funny. We weren't married at the time, but she's like, "You never been into a drive-through?" I says, "No, this is cool. It feels kind of American. You know, the novelty of it." But so I noticed the system, and I thought, this is weird. Why do we have to? Is it one way? Like, why can I not see the board? Why? And I didn't realize at the time, but let me tell you what, this is all done intentionally. It's all been engineered, this whole drive-through experience. Nothing's an accident. Right. They paint the signs in colors your eye physically cannot escape. Then they put down arrows to guide you without you having to decide anything, right? It's this way. There is no exit. And then they split the lanes to make it seem like there's a shorter lane. And then there's a box between you and the two cars. So you can't change your mind. You can't leave when you're halfway through. And they hide the menu behind anti-glare glass. So you've got to wait until you're right there at the menu itself. And then you do panic ordering. Your impulse is winning every time in that situation. So these big screens that they have in the drive-through, they're purposely predicting your weaknesses. And then, next they'll have, facial recognition if they haven't got that already. But it's all to control you into consuming more and more and more. I'm telling you, they're pure evil. I'm like, the tactics are sick. And you need to feel that level of passion about this in order to make this change. Coca-Cola and Santa, you might be aware of this already, but I didn't realize how deep this goes. Santa Claus, the one we know now, wearing the red and the white, was invented by Coca-Cola. It used to be Saint Nicholas, right, who was a real man. And he was a bishop who gave everything away he owned, right, to the poor. And then the machine takes over and realizes, right, we can turn this into the world's greatest salesman. So the red suit, the white beard, buy. The same colors you see on the Coca-Cola, holidays are coming. I love that advert too. So they take the holiest night of the year and rebrand it for the most expensive month of your life as a dad. I love Christmas, but the consumerism is sickening. Yeah, I've talked already about Bob Norris. I was going to give you Marlboro Man as the other example, but Bob Norris, was the Marlboro Man that never smoked. And yeah, my dad smoked for 30 years. I smoked a little bit when I was younger. And just think about cigarettes, and now the playbook is with alcohol. The exact same thing. And thank God I know so many fellas, especially that I work with, that are giving up the booze. But there is an attack on the nuclear family. And it's all coordinated. For thousands of years, we ate meals together. And it was a sacred experience. I know me and my wife, actually, I'm not going to go into what we do, but you stop and gather, you give thanks. You are grateful for the food you have, to have each other, and you eat without distraction. And the table is the one thing that kids need, and this has been shown time and time again, as the anchor point for a stable life. They know, all right, every day at this time, we eat together. And it must have been amazing a generation ago when you have 3 generations in one house. My uncle and auntie still live with their mother, and their family will meet together. It's wonderful. But now, instead of eating together, making eye contact, sharing the news of the day, personal news, not the news that's made up, there is a surrender to the screen, to eating alone, being in your car, eating on the go. But when the family's together, and it's been proven time and time again, it also regulates your appetite. They took 3 different types of people, had them eating with someone, while watching TV, and while walking around. Lo and behold, the people watching TV consumed more, walking slightly less, and the people eating with someone else consume far less. This is a great comment that I got from I can't remember read that username, but you can see it there. Let me read it out if you're not watching and you're just listening. Ironically, context first. The last video I did was why the media want middle-aged men to be fat. Homer Simpson, Peter Griffin, Daddy Pig, it goes on and on and on. And because I mentioned Homer Simpson, there's a lot of... This is the most commented thing on that video. And this is the most liked comment. 377 people liked this comment. He says in the comment, ironically, Flanders, the Christian character in The Simpsons, was, I believe, maybe one of the few middle-aged characters who was lean and muscular, smart and well off. He's a father figure with a beautiful wife and kids, yet they made fun of him the most. The agenda is clear. So who was Flanders' biggest adversary and the person that bullied him and mocked him the most? Homer Simpson, fat, lazy, stupid. I mean, for 30 years, they basically told you that if you got a loving wife, an attractive wife as well, I mean, Marge, that voice. Anyway, good kids, that's a joke. You know, to be healthy, prosperous, to be devoted, to be present. That's the punchline every single week. So ask yourself, why? Why is that the case? Why even groundskeeper Willie, who described himself as a Presbyterian, he's also very muscular, very lean, hard worker. He's mocked as well. Why is that the case? And you'll find when you start peeling back these layers of the onion that you're going to go through a cycle yourself. And right now you might be at unconscious incompetence. In other words, you don't know what you don't know. But then once you start ingesting information, insights like this, it awakens you and puts a seed, plants that seed. And then you realize you have conscious incompetence. You now know what you don't know. Your eyes are open. And then you move to conscious competence, which is you're actively trying to seek out more insights, to take the right actions, to move you in the right direction. And finally, you have unconscious competence. It's second nature. Eating well, exercising is like brushing your teeth. It'd be weird if you didn't do it. So let's look at the architecture of this deception. You've gone from an organic reality where we're in touch with nature, we wake up to the sunlight, we get outside, talk to people, we move, to this engineered illusion of, oh, look at these people online, these fit birds. Why doesn't my wife look like that? Why don't I look like that? We've gone from having saints and heroes, having elders, to salesmen giving you poison. From a sacred foundation of the family meal and the family together, to it being a joke. People saying, I don't have kids. Kids are expensive. Sick. The shared communion, eating together, being stuck on our phone. Eating as if it's something that has to be done quickly to get it over and done with. And finally, free will to trapped panic. You eat proactively, not reactively. You're not driving, you see a drive-through, and you that slight impulse, boom, you're in that lane, you're down that funnel, that tunnel, buying that crap. And the first stage of this is identity. Because right now, I don't know how you see yourself. That's a question for you to ask. You don't become healthy by thinking. That's the starting point. You have to actually do. And when you do, that gives you confidence that you are. Because if you just think, I am a healthy person, and you haven't got evidence to back that up, that's delusion. But you need to name your enemies. Now that we've named the enemies outside, what about the enemies within? The 7 deadly sins. 2 of them are gluttony and sloth. These are 2 of the oldest words for that suffocating feeling. And this was coined by 4th century monks. They knew back then and understood what the modern industry is capitalizing on now, the food industry. Gluttony is not rare anymore. It's the default. Cheap engineered food, endless scrolling, just one more minute or one more reel. These things have been built to dictate mindless consumption. And sloth isn't laziness. It's avoidance. You know what you need to do, and you're choosing comfort instead. And that comfort is not just once. It's 1,000 comfortable choices. They feed into each other. You avoid effort, you feel heavy, you overconsume, you reach for something to cope, it goes round and round. Because you're never destroyed by one disaster. Like, you're slowly buried by 1,000 comfortable choices. Another comfortable choice and solution is medication. After the Ned Flanders comment, the most popular comment was Ozempic, ? Or Wegovy, ? All these GLP-1s weight loss drugs. I just learnt this. Take a breath. They are engineering GLP-1s to override, they're engineering food now to override the effects of GLP-1 drugs. Because there's a problem. With GLP-1s, people are buying less food, and we can't have that. If you're buying less junk food, we're losing money. So now they're engineering these foods so they bypass this. So you're still obese. You will still have the side effects. And you'll still have these hyper-palatable foods that feel rewarding. So can you see now? This never ends if you're reactive. It's not the solution to gluttony and sloth. You need appetite in your life. These are appetite suppressants. Appetite is not just for food. It's for your life, for your work, for your wife. And this has been shown now that people are slacking off at work because they're on GLP-1s. They're not having sex with their missus because they ain't got the appetite for it. You don't want that. Jesus Christ. Come on. But the trap is fully set. And you're in the middle of it. We all are. So let's look at these ingredients in this super despair and pour in the loneliness epidemic that every middle-aged man feels. That compounds those two sins, gluttony and sloth. When you're isolated, you've got no one to answer to. So if you've got no one to answer to, you keep eating. That's the trap. But here's the way out. Gluttony makes you soft, and sloth keeps you there. If you beat both, you get your life back. But you need to reclaim it for yourself. A leaner body, a clearer mind, more energy for your kids, more self-respect. So do it now. Don't be a sloth. Do the scorecard. Takes a few minutes. Get that clarity. Link in the description and the pinned comment. Thank you.